welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast about board gamers and the insane fun we have at the table together. This is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And this is episode 474, the 18th annual Golden Geek nominations. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Hey friends, we are back. And again, as always, we're talking about the latest and greatest in tabletop gaming. And in particular, for this special episode, our feature is going to be the 18th annual Golden Geek nominations. People wearing tuxedos, people wearing fancy, crazy clothes, the dresses, the fashions, the celebrities, everyone's here. Look, everyone, look on the red carpet. It is him, Anthony Chatfield. He's here. Hey, Anthony, do you have anything to say about the 18th annual Golden Geek Awards?
How did I get here? Where am I? I was just in my office. Holy moly. Board games, man. There's nothing more glamorous in the world than board games. I know this because people tell me every single day that we live a dream.
It's true. It's a cardboard dream, but yes, nonetheless.
Cardboard dream. I love it.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So these are the awards. These are, well, there's a lot of awards coming up. This is the first one that dropped. And if you look at last year, this is a different order. So I don't know what the Dice Tower people are doing. They're dragging their feet. Where are their nominations? Come on.
We got to get going here. So we're going to be taking a look at the top nominations. A lot of us, the general public, people on Board Game Geek, obviously, nominated all these fantastic games amongst an endless list from Board Game Geek. And I mean endless. Like, they have a drop-down menu that could choke a horse.
I hate nominating games for this award. It isn't exhausting, but, you know, it's worth doing. It's fun to do. It's just also terrible.
And then ironically, even with the nominations, it's like, did you nominate everybody? Because it seems like you nominate everybody.
Yes. Yeah. It's ridiculous. They have like 10, 12 nominations per category, and they have like 15 categories. Like, it's too much.
Yeah, the only reason why we know they don't nominate everybody is because we were not nominated.
Yeah. Yeah. The heck, man.
Well, you know, we're the exception that proves the rule. I like that about us.
Yeah. We're special.
We got to remain anonymous.
That's true. We have a lot of listeners, but nobody knows who we are. It's that dichotomy. I love it.
It's the monkey paw thing when you start the podcast. You're like, Board Gamers Anonymous. That sounds like a great name. It's definitely not going to backfire on us. And they're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All of you listening right now, I know who you are. You're like those hipsters. You're like, oh, I love this podcast, but I can't tell other people because then it'll become popular.
That's true.
And then it's not cool anymore.
It's very Fight Club.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't even be talking about right now.
Yeah, what are you doing, man? You just broke the first rule.
Ugh. All right. Well, that's going to be fun. And we'll talk about that in our future review because, again, it's talking about board games, which is the most important thing in the world to talk about. So let's talk about it. But Anthony, before we get into all that fun stuff, we're going to be doing some fun stuff. And we're going to be amongst the public, amongst people out there doing things, playing games and such.
Yeah, we love games. We like playing them. We like talking about them. We like doing all this stuff with them. Our next big thing, because I've actually gotten several emails and messages lately asking, like, what are you guys doing this summer? What conventions are you going to? And it's going to be a little bit of an atypical summer for us because our main focus is on the Board Game Academics Conference, which is taking place on July 4th as the first day of Dex Light in Morristown, New Jersey. So we just actually sent out our acceptance letters to our many contributors for issue 2 and for the conference. So many amazing journal articles and topics that came through. And we'll be getting together and sharing those with the world on July 4th in Morristown. So if you want to play games with us, especially if you're local, Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, etc., hit us up there. That we'll be there for the full weekend. And very much looking forward to it. We're in the midst of planning as we speak.
Absolutely. So come for the academic conversation about tabletop gaming, and you could sign off on it being an educational event, and then just, stay a couple extra days and just play games. Because
that's what I'm doing.
This is,
so,
that's generally how a lot of that stuff goes. So
yeah.
You're coming to a really hardcore, fun, intellectual event, and you're leaving with a ton of experience of playing some great games and getting some great games to the table. Thanks, everybody, for sharing the call for papers. We got so many, as Anthony said, so many great papers that came in. And it's going to be a great time. We'll have more details as time goes on, including our keynote speaker and our special panel presentation. So stay with us. More details to come. All right. Well, that's what a little bit was going on with us. Anthony, anything going on with you?
Yeah, so we mentioned a couple weeks ago that we have recordings from Long Island Tabletop uh, Expo, and they have not yet been finished, processed, whatevered, to put up on the Patreon. So those are still coming. But because I didn't want to continue the gap as we wait for those, I did record a bonus episode and post it to the Patreon just this last week, where I went through the most anticipated games for 2024 and kind of gave an update. I called it a mid-year update. I know it's not the middle of the year, but it's close enough. Mostly because I'm going to be out of town for many weeks over the summer. And it just kind of went through like what's come out, what has not come out, what is never coming out, what's good, what's not good. Some stuff's not very good. Happens. Where like people are like you were anticipating this, right? I'm like, yeah, but I didn't know it was going to be bad. So
I was anticipating it being bad.
yeah. So you can check that out. It's the bonus episode from last week. And then, again, those are available to anybody who supports us on the Patreon. So thank you all to everybody who does that. And you can listen to that. You can leave comments. You can let us know what you would like to hear. And again, coming up very soon, hopefully, we will have our recordings of Level Up Your Tabletop Teach and Level Up Your Mental Health, our 2 hour-long presentations from Long Island Tabletop Expo. They were amazing. They were great. Lots of great content in those presentations, and a lot of really cool feedback and interaction from the audience there. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, as we wait for those, we'll have other bonus content for you as well.
Excellent. All right. So that's what's going on with us. Anthony, what's going on with all our friends out there? What's our question of the week?
Alrighty, folks. Question of the week this week is: what is a game for which the retail edition is just as good as the crowdfunded version or close enough?
Oh.
So let's talk about games that didn't need to be crowdfunded, which on the list gets longer every year. So Ryan over on the Patreon says Garphill Games. This is Shem Phillips and West Kingdom or East Kingdom, whatever.
It's
You
all
know
the
what I'm talking about.
kingdoms. It's all the kingdoms.
Architects, Paladins, all those games. And that which is 100% true. These games are basically the same thing. And if you wait, you get it for cheaper because
Hmm.
it's in retail and you're not paying the shipping. Like
Yes.
typically the difference is like the promo, like maybe some promo cards if you care about that kind of stuff. So you get a little bit earlier and you get a promo and that's it. There's not like a bunch of extra stuff packed on, which is cool. I like when um, crowdfunding campaigns do that. Over on the Facebook, we had a few more answers. Let's see, Jesse says I forewent the fancy version of Ready Set Bet for the retail version and felt it was as much as the game needed to be. Matthew says every single Tiny Epic game.
True. Very true.
Yeah, pretty much. Kelber says games in the South Tigers trilogy. Again, that's Garphill, as well as Reiner Knizia games, which is generally true. Because what would the stretch goal be for a Reiner Knizia game?
That's
More
true.
abstract pieces, like they're
More math.
yeah, more
More,
math.
more embedded math in there.
Now with more math. Uh, we get Nathan says Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate, exactly the same and faster to retail for some backers. Um, Brandon says Thunder Road Vendetta was very close.
Hmm.
So there are a bunch of these now. Some companies really just use Kickstarter as pre-order service,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm okay with it, sometimes I'm not. I generally buy every flat out game. So that's like Calico and Cascadia and Verdant. I think I've only backed one of those games on Kickstarter, which is the most recent one, Nocturne. Because they're basically the same. Like you get the same stuff if you wait and pick it up at the convention from AEG or if you buy it off Kickstarter.
Hmm.
Uh, and they're small enough that the price is more or less the same and you're not paying for shipping. So I'm like, I'll wait the extra 3 months. Um, I've never backed a Garphill game. I think that's a good pick, and I own like 5 of them.
Hmm.
So I think that's a good pick as well. Um, the big ones are always tough because I know a couple people are like, "Oh yeah, SEMA on this and SEMA on that." I'm like, I know we all dislike what Simon does, and it's very manipulative, but they're not the same, right?
No.
That's the whole point. That's why it's manipulative. It's not the same. If you back it on Kickstarter or GameFound now, you're getting a bunch more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're apparently charging you for that stuff now, as we
Sure.
just saw with God of War, where you have to pay for a higher pledge level to get the stretch goals. But
Jeez.
it's so stupid. I think it's
Uh,
you know what's going to happen there. Some people are not going to have realized that because they've backed other Simon projects, and they're
yes.
going to be mad. It's going to show up, be like, "This is just the retail version, and I paid $40 for shipping. What the heck?"
I mean, all the campaigns, all the campaign pages are way too long.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I used to do a Kickstarter kind of podcast talking about a lot of these campaigns not having enough information. Now it's a waterfall. It's just an endless waterfall. It's like you have
Yeah.
to scroll down infinitely to kind of get to the sense of what that is. And by the time you get to the bottom, you forgot what was on top. You're just like,
Yeah.
what was this again? What game was I backing? I'm not really sure.
Yeah. What they're going for is that you're in your brain, you're saying, "That's a lot."
100%.
Well, I guess I want that because that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the big perpetrators, and I guess this is probably more on your side, Anthony, is Castles of Burgundy, right?
Yes.
That
Yes. Roman on Facebook actually mentioned this as well.
oh,
So,
nice, there you go. Yeah, I would say for myself, the one that sticks with me to this day is Castles of Mad King Ludwig, the collector's edition, with
mm,
the gigantic tiles, which I've never seen in person, and I've yet to see pictures of on the table because they were supersized or colossicized as their version. You didn't need to do that. It's supposed to be an architectural plan. You should be able to put it on the table. Like
yeah.
I don't know
It,
why. I don't know why. What Ted Alspach thought that was the thing he needed to do. I mean, money, sure,
right. It's
but
money, but they know that it was a bad idea because they will not show anybody what it looks like.
it's true. People have been crushed by much less than that. So yeah,
Yeah, it's like those bookshelves that have to be like attached to the wall or they'll crush a child. It's
100%.
your copy of Mad King Ludwig. It's like attached to the wall.
Yeah, here's the wall anchors for your game. Like why? Like yeah, you know why it is. Like damn it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's what's going on with everyone out there. Please hit us up on all the social medias while they're still there. Because we're there and we love to hear from you there. Or again, you can always find all of our theirs on boardgameranonymous.com. It has all of our great content, all of our podcast reviews, everything, all the archives and stuff like that, plus all of the social media links and stuff. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so that's everything that everyone's doing out there. So, Anthony, let's get to the important part. Let's talk about some acquisition disorders.
All right. So I had something else, but then I was looking at GameFound and I realized that there's two games on there right now at the same time
There's a lot of games, yeah.
from the same designer.
Uh
And you know what? By the time we publish this, these games won't be up anymore, but who
huh.
cares? This is funny and I don't care. Um, and honestly, everything can be late backed now, so it doesn't even matter when it ends. Like, it's silly. But we have Mindbug Battlefruits, which
Okay.
is we talked about Mindbug back in August, September. Chris and you played it at the Indianapolis airport.
I did. It's the best
Good
place
game.
to play it.
Yeah, it was good.
Uh-huh.
And it's basically like an 18 card deck 2-player battling game from Richard Garfield, right? They have since now run 3 separate crowdfunding campaigns for additional content. I backed the second one, so I have 3 boxes of these now, which is plenty. Unless you play it a lot, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's quick. It's very easy to teach. It's super accessible. If you lose and have a bad hand or a bad draw or a bad deck, the game takes 10 minutes. You just start over, which is fun. The other game is Keyforge, Aember Skies, also designed by Richard Garfield. So these two games, the two most recent Richard Garfield games, both on GameFound at the same time. They're ending within 2 days of each other. And now, number of backers and then the total value of the Kickstarter of the GameFound campaigns. Chris, which one do you think has more backers? And I'm not really going through Keyforge because I've talked about this a billion times. It's Keyforge.
It's
But
Keyforge.
which of these two campaigns do you think has more people backing it?
Oh, come on. I mean, gotta be Keyforge?
It's not even close.
Oh,
Uh, Mindbug has 4,000 backers. Keyforge only has 1,170.
what happened to Keyforge? It was like the thing. Like it
I,
was I have a deck. I don't even want to play it, and I have a deck.
you know what it is? Keyforge is not the type of game that should be on GameFound for every campaign. This is the third one they've run,
Yeah.
and the first one I backed, and I gave them a lot of money up front. They sent me a bunch of stuff. They messed up a bunch of other stuff that I never got replaced because I
Mm,
needed pictures of it, which was annoying. But whatever, it all showed up. The the game is really like it needs the organized play element. It needs people to go to the game
yeah.
stores and play it, and they're not. I'm not seeing that. Not
Uh,
locally, anyways.
sure.
A little bit at conventions. They've run some events, but it really it's everybody thought it was coming back with that new set that they did like a year and a half ago, and it didn't really come back. It's really just living on through GameFound, and so the number of people who are in on that is pretty small.
Yeah.
Um, the campaign that I backed, I think, had like 4 or 5 thousand backers and made over $1 million. Mindbug is like play this with your kids, man. It's
Yeah.
super simple. You play with anybody. It's cute. It's fun. It's fun to have new stuff. You get new decks. It's great. Um, so Mindbug is stomping on Keyforge in terms of
Wow.
backers. The
Crazy.
total value is about the same. Mindbug's at like 400,000 euros, and Keyforge is at like $325,000. So not too far off.
Mm,
But that's just because on these Keyforge campaigns, you can back for a billion different things, right?
yeah.
You can get new you get the cards obviously, but you can also get ones with your own name on them.
Sure.
I have one from that first campaign that they ran. You can have like new 2-player sets. You have tokens. You have player mats. You have like little plastic pieces.
Sure.
Um, they did not do like the plushies and other weird stuff this time around, or like the little plastic statues. But there's like the highest level backing for this is $2,000, and 10
Wow.
people did it. So that is crazy. But it's interesting to see it because right now we're seeing like a huge surge in CCGs and collectible
Yes.
card games. Neither one of these is that. These are the grandfather of all collectible card games. Richard Garfield coming back and saying, "Well, here's two different ways we could do that are not collectible.
Yes.
What do you think of these?" And this is what people think of these. So, um, I will potentially back the Mindbug one now that I'm looking at it. I will definitely not back the Keyforge one because I I have so many Keyforge decks and there's nowhere to go to play them.
Oh,
So I still have like my box of new ones from a year ago that I haven't even opened because there's no one to play that with except my son, but he'd rather play Star Wars Unlimited, which fair, better game.
sure.
Um, so there you have it, folks. If you want some Richard Garfield stuff, maybe the late backing's up, maybe not. Either way, both of these will run another campaign probably 9 months from now because that seems to be what they're doing. So we got Mindbug, Battlefruits, Keyforge, Ember Skies, both on GameFound. It's funny, but also interesting, but also weird.
Yeah. it- I mean, like, pour one out for your homies. I mean, this is a tragedy a little bit, and I wish there was some major journalistic or coverage of this, or some deep, academic dive into it, because I had this conversation with Game Master Dave, and without going into like a whole diatribe here, we lost a lot of game stores, like
Yeah.
clearly, right? We lost them because of Kickstarter early on, and then we lost them because of COVID, and game stores have struggled just generally, and obviously online sales and stuff like that too, and Amazon, of
Hmm.
course. I mean, there's been a couple of articles here and there over the last 5 some odd years, and there's been some attempts. Barnes and Noble tried at one point to put together some game days and stuff like that, but like, I, I don't know. Like, I don't know about the state of the industry when you have these very brilliant games, wonderful designers, and yet at the same time, you have to look at these things now and go, will I ever find a place to play these things? Like, they're not going to have organized plays. Like, think of all these miniature games, the Star Wars miniature games or the Flight Path miniature games. Like, where am I playing these? I haven't seen these played unless you and your friends arrange a time and a place to play them. It's just,
Right.
it was, again, back in the day, not to keep going back there, but there was a time when every store was running a miniatures, this, that, or the other, or this, that, or the other card. Now it's just, it's it's oversaturated, and there's very few opportunities. I think even one point they were talking about libraries getting Magic tournaments and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That never really played out. I think we reported on that a couple of years back, and just never manifested. So I don't know. I'd like to know if someone's doing something about this, because it seems to be a serious issue. That's
Right. Like, there's so much money in these things. Like, if you
yeah,
lose the baseline of the places to play them, what is a Wizards of the Coast going to do? Like, and honestly, it seems like they know that, because the Magic the Gathering business model has shifted away from, here's our new sets, here's our big tournaments, which obviously still exist,
yeah,
but they have all these like secret layer drops and like their little crossover events. Like, here's Doctor Who and here's Fallout and
yeah.
here's Lord of the Rings. It's really just for collectors. Um, but yeah, I look back at the Keyforge data. The first campaign, which was Winds of Exchange, which I did back, had 6,100 backers, and that was everybody being excited that it was back.
Hmm.
Uh, the second one, which was last year, Grim Reaper or Grim Reminders, had 2,200 backers, and then this one right now only has 1,100 with 3 days left. So
Wow,
it's like a half life. It's going down by half each time.
wow.
Um, I don't I don't know how much money they need to survive and keep
Sure,
persisting and build, but even if you go to their website under retail events, they say we're going to start supporting in-store play kits, as if they haven't done it yet. Like,
sure,
and they have pre-release kits for Grim Reminders. All I can say is that no store near me did this. I couldn't find any. Um, so, and it was like March 2024. That's when Star Wars Unlimited came out. Lorcana's hot. Like, how much space do you even have? So, I don't know. It's sad. I loved Keyforge. It's the only game I went to a store for organized play multiple weeks in a row. Like, I
sure.
met a lot of friends that way in Pittsburgh. Like, it was a blast. I did this for like 3-4 months. Um, and everything just kind of died down when it fell apart. So, you know, bye Keyforge. I loved you. Star Wars is good, but it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars.
And Mindbug is Mindbug. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, and Lorcana is the thing, and I don't
Yeah.
know. So, oh well.
Yeah. It is what it is. What are you gonna do? Like, things die. But it's one of those things you can look at it and see why it happened. You're just like, well, if this could have just been different, it would have been better. But oh
Yeah.
well, things happen.
Well, again, like these are, and again, it's the card games, it's the miniature games, it's even the tabletop board games too. That you want to be able to have those competitions and experience. You have to have those experiences with large groups of people and tournament kind of kits and organized play. And it just,
Hmm.
I don't know what the solution is for that, but hopefully someone's thinking about it and we could talk about it more, because there needs to be a solution to it.
Hmm.
Because these games are too good, and again, they sit in our closets. That's
Yeah,
kind
they
of a
do.
thing. Yeah. All right. Well, I got a bunch, and I had to hold myself back because there was a bunch more on here. So let's start with surprising, and I just want to surprise Anthony out of the box here. Anthony, do you know a game called Munchkin?
Oh, I know what this is. Boo. Boo
uh,
already, I say.
Munchkin, the big box. It's on Backer Kit, and I think obviously, clearly, they're taking advantage of D&D's 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
The box itself has the iconic photo there with the dragon. And finally, they brought John Kovalek back to do the artwork, which is, again, there's a lot of good artwork, but it's iconic for the game. And it's honestly one of, if not the main reason why I even liked Munchkin to start
I
with.
honestly didn't know anybody else did artwork. When I think of Munchkin, I
Oh,
think of Kovalik. Yeah.
100%. And then they had a whole bunch of like they tried out a bunch of different artists just for like one-offs, and then like a lot of the sets since then have been just different artists across the board.
It's literally the only thing I like about that game. Why would you get rid?
I
Come
don't
on.
know.
All Kovalik all day.
I don't. It's really odd. It doesn't make a lot of sense. What was surprising, and I'll talk about the campaign, is they still have 13 days left at the time of the recording, and they are already up to $842,000 plus so forth and so on.
Oh my gosh.
So I was seeing this, I'm like, Anthony's going to be surprised because what really comes in this gigantic box, which holds a lot of things, is really just the quintessential Munchkin game. It's the core base set that's been around forever, and a couple of the expansions, and then some additional pieces and the boards and stuff like that. So there's nothing radically new here. Like, this is, if you've never played Munchkin, this is a fantastic opportunity to get all the things all at once. Plus, if you've ever followed Munchkin or liked Munchkin, they always overproduce like endless numbers of additional, I don't know, swag that goes along with the game. So buttons and dice and stickers and trackers and standees and things and bookmarks to the ends of the earth. So it's a lot of stuff. It's cool. It's all the stuff you have if you follow Munchkin. There is some relatively kind of stuff. There's some wooden meeples, which is cool. There's, obviously, I mentioned that one piece of artwork. You can get it in a dice tray, a patch. There's some cards and some, minor things that you've never seen before, I guess, more or less, depending on how you're into it. So yeah, it's a thing, man. It's making money. It's doing things. I'm surprised, but yeah. Munchkin.
All right. I don't. Okay. Why? Who spent $125 for just Munchkin and like 5 expansions?
I mean,
it's a cool cover. It is a very cool
it's
cover.
a very
I like
cool
that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the AD&D John Kovalik style. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, again, I think it's, if you play the game, you might want a couple of these upgraded pieces or the stuff that you can add on, and then you're like, why not? I should just buy a box. They have giant boxes for Munchkin, so you could store all your Munchkin stuff. It was a big thing I would say about 4 years ago. I have one of the boxes now. It was on like major discount because I have so much Munchkin stuff. Yeah, so it's there if you're so interested, but yeah, it's a little pricey. But Munchkin stuff has always been pricey. It's always been around that price, give or take. All right, another great campaign that's up is one of our games of the year, Feudum. Feudum, we had talked about this a little while back, that it was coming to GameFound, and it's out. It's their 7th year anniversary. They have decided to blow Anthony's mind by making a 6-player play this game.
Why?
Because it's one of the greatest games of all time. But
is it with 6 people, though?
Well, I will say one of the things about Feudum, and really the thing that I love about Feudum, is you have the different guilds and other things. I mean, as far as you have 6 different action spaces where things happen. And typically, as the game goes on, you typically control 1 or 2 or multiples of these throughout the game. What's great about the game is when one thing happens, all the other ones, more or less, depending on where they're at as far as resources are concerned, are also triggered. So you get to see a cascading effect throughout all these different areas on the board, which is a lot of fun. There's 6 areas on the board, so I guess you could now, each person could control one area, like you're not left out of an area. So that's pretty cool. And they have upgrades and, fun little stuffs. If you have not played or purchased a game, you should. You should definitely play it, because I know that it's a game that it takes some time to fall in love with, because it is a super super crunchy game. But it's the beautiful oddity of it that I think draws the attention. So
it is very odd. I've held on to it for many years, despite never actually getting it played.
I got it. Next time I come in there, as we're playing it, but we have to. We're going to get a review copy for the 6 players, so maybe we get 6 players. Maybe.
I don't want to do that.
You might want to. You'll see. All right.
All right. I do want to play it. It looks very cool. That's why I've held on to it. The aesthetic is astoundingly cool.
Yes.
I might even upgrade my copy despite never having played it, because you get the little metal dude.
Yes.
And I want the metal dude.
100%. It's very Alice in Wonderland if it was done by Monty Python.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So
great way to
and
I love that.
it's really it's Euro-y. Like it's Euro-y through and through. And I think if you love that kind of like deep dive into Euro-ness, then you're on board. The opposite side here, Kickstarter, Fractured Sky Rift. I'll actually be talking about Fractured Sky at the table, so hang on for a second. But since this is a section for acquisition disorders, Fractured Sky Rift, it's on Kickstarter. There's a couple days left, and basically, this expansion is a small box expansion. It's got painted minis, magnets, and a couple of other little things. Basically, this campaign is about, hey, would you like to buy the game? It's it's now on crowdfunding again. You can buy it. The expansion itself is again rather small because basically, without explaining the whole game, it's all about collecting these different star pieces that have fallen to the board, and this new expansion allows you to do some set collection because now instead of just being one color and you're collecting the pieces, now you could collect certain sets that are going to score you exponentially more points. So that's pretty much it. There's an upgraded version where there's metal pieces and of the same thing, but it's a small box expansion. So if you already love Fractured Sky, or if you do not know, I'll talk about it in a second. It's currently on, a little thing called Kickstarter, and the expansion itself is $19, which is also, relatively inexpensive, unless you want to go a little more fancy. Metal Edition's $29, and then you could buy the full version of it, which is $129. So then we get some some heavy swinging area there. And then finally, again, just because it's yet another big box, Canvas, the game about sleeving cards of art to make beautiful works of art or weird, wacky arts, and also matching symbols. Well, they had they had the base game and then two expansions. You can fit everything into these three boxes. It is difficult. I've done it many times. It's difficult. But now they've said, hey, why don't we just create a giant box where you could fit all three, the base game and the two expansions in, and it's done. You can actually be able to do that without having problems. And the trays come out so you can actually put all the components and pieces and tokens and cards in there and then pull them out onto the actual table to play with them, which is really the smartest way to do a big box. So many times the big box is just a big box. This is a big box where you can actually use it for actual, game holders and component holders at the table. It's a little bit on the expensive side. It's going to cost you $34 for a box. But again, they do have trays and stuff like that. There's also a couple of new cards and new things for $10 more. And then, of course, you could back all the previous campaigns if you're interested. Canvas is a good game. It's definitely on the super light style. It's definitely more on the family style. My family enjoys it because you can play it for the points, matching symbols and stuff, or you could play it for, creating the most elaborate, beautiful pictures and voting on that. All right, now let's get on to her at the table. And we'll let you know if those games are a buy and you should run out and purchase those games. If those games are a play and you should sit down and play them. If those games are a dodge and you should avoid them. Or if, in fact, those games are the dreaded burn and they do not deserve a place in your collection, whether or not they're placed in a gigantic additional box. So, Anthony, I got a chance to play two games this week. First up is a game from Board and Dice. This is called Books of Time. It's a simple and fast-playing, innovative twist on tableau building and set collection. At least that's what it says. This is a really interesting game to talk about. And I think it's also interesting to talk about Board and Dice because at some point, sometime in the company, someone came in there and threw down a gauntlet and was like, hey, you did all the T games. Can we do something else? Like, what else you guys got? Because we've done the T stuff already. And obviously, Barcelona. Very nice, very cool, awesome, beautiful, fantastic game. We've talked about it a lot. And this is another really interesting, different take on a tabletop game. So, as they describe it, it's an innovative twist on tableau building and set collection. What that means is you are actually going to be creating 3 books. And when I mean you're creating 3 books, the game itself comes with 2 ring binders, metal 2 ring metal binders from like back in the day when you were a kid, where you had to pull them apart and then hopefully not lose your finger when they snap back together. So you have a red, you have a green, and you have a gold book, and basically you are putting down these books of all the different accomplishments and all the different travels and all the different scientific discoveries and art and culture that humanity has done over 1,000 years. You're trying to put all these together in the book. That's pretty much it. There really isn't much to the story here. It's like thousands of years of history in books. It's your chance to write the story. Eh. So as far as thematics are concerned, that's it. It's the pages of the books that you're going to put into the books. Some have historical figures, some have different geographic locations, some have references to scientific discoveries, but generally it is all about the mechanics. This is a mechanics Euro game, dry, as almost as dry as can be, not necessarily a bad thing, and also, like as I said earlier, kind of themeless, right? It's really nice to see that they added a lot of these fantastic inventors and artists and so forth. But again, most of the information about these people are in the rule book, and they're not even named on the cards. So really, what it comes down to is what are the symbols on the cards doing as far as putting them in the book. So let me talk about the actual gameplay itself. So when you're sitting at the table, as I mentioned, you have these 3 books. So you have these metal binders. Again, really interesting, dynamic kind of concept, real metal. And you put the cover and the back on it, and you start with 2 pages in each book that give you bonuses and benefits. And then there's a market. There is an area in which you will be able to take cards from, put it in your own kind of market building area, which then you will purchase from that area to add it to your book. Why would you do that? Good question. Now, the reason to do that is, as I mentioned earlier, this is a dry uh, multiplayer solitaire Euro game that's all about the symbology and about, chaining together a couple of different effects. Now, there are a lot of actions in this game that you can take. So as you're putting the book together, you're doing so to actually kind of like you're building a book thematically, but really what you're building is a tableau in which you're choosing when to activate. So, activating pages is the main action which you're going to do, which allows you to pick one of your 3 books and allows you to utilize the action on both pages, the left page and the right page. You can utilize them in either order, and I'll talk about the Chronicle in a minute. And that's going to allow you to trade resources. There are pen tips and pages because, of course, you're writing books. There's also files, which act as a wild resource, but also files are important for some of the exchange of resources. And then it also allows you some special abilities to get more, not just these resources, but get more pages in which then you can pay using pen tips and pages to add to one of your 3 books. Now, actually adding the pages in will give you sometimes an additional resource. So you're always getting resources in the game. The resources management's pretty low. Like I said, there's basically 3 resources, or 2 if you count the wild resource as its own thing. And as you add pages, you're getting those basic resources, then you're activating those pages. And then at some point, as you're flipping through these pages, you're going to come to the end of the book and then close the book. At this point, it allows you to go back to the beginning of the book and then have access to those original special abilities early on. But you can also close the book. You put a bookmark in just to kind of hold things, and then you can utilize the resources from the previous pages, which is closing the book as an action, not as in I have finished through all the pages and therefore it closes. Finally, you'll get to draw cards, which allows you to have more options to put into your books. Again, and then there is a chronicle. There is a cardboard stand in which you put this brown book that is supposed to be representative of the Chronicle of Humanity. And basically, what it comes down to is 15 cards which you randomly select from a brown deck in order to set up an additional free action that you can do each turn in any order that you'd like. And then once everyone does that action, the card flips, and basically it becomes the turn tracker. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of great historical figures mentioned in the rulebook. Again, it's kind of sad that they're not actually somewhere kind of noted in the cards. I remember when we played Her Story, it was really fun to get the name of this wonderful woman and her accomplishments and then have a full kind of description of the things that she did. Here it's like you kind of recognize that person or maybe check the rule book. Again, there's also industry cards. It's fine. They don't really have any kind of special like orders, like ordering them in a certain order so that like the technology kind of advances. And that's primarily it. So throughout the game, you are getting resources to get pages, to add pages to your book, or I'm sorry, your multiple books, your 3 books. And then as you choose to do so, you activate 2 pages on the books. You flip those pages over because now those opportunities are past. Eventually, those opportunities come back. And then you're doing all of this for 2 reasons. One is there is a track that you're moving up your 3 different book colors. So there's a red, a green, and a gold. And as you move up, you get, special activities, you get additional resources, and it also will score how many pages you've added to whatever particular book it might be. On the top, that's kind of like the big hit that you'll be able to get at the end of the game. Beyond those points, you can also get points from achievements. At the start of the game, this is kind of interesting. You are given green, red, and gold again achievements. They are reflective of what you're able to do in your book, what kind of icons you're able to get. So green is about all different icons that you can get in your book. Red is about certain science books and then a variety of different symbols. And then gold is all about having the right order of symbols. Okay? As you get those, or as you get special abilities, you can knock off one of the 3 tiles that are stacked on top of each other. So the green, the red, and the gold all have 3 tiles. You can knock them off, and then at the end of the game, hopefully, you knock them off to the point where you can score the biggest reward possible as long as you meet the condition of that achievement. So maybe if you're not pushing the gold book, you don't want to go down to the highest level of achievement because it's just not a really well developed book. So you still want to score 5 points out of it. But, if you could do everything on that gold book, it scores you 24. So, I mean, honestly, that's it in a nutshell. Beyond, I will say one thing. I mentioned that this is multiplayer solitaire. It also has a solo mode. I don't know. You might know the guy's name by David Turchi. He does some solo games, and basically the exact thing you do in the multiplayer game, you're doing in the solo game, with the exception of you're trying to meet certain achievements that you decide on before the game starts. So the solo game is almost identical to the multiplayer game. The game itself is pretty easy to manage, although there is a lot of choices of actions to take. there can be some analysis paralysis, because if you are playing with a large group of people, basically everyone's looking at the cards or the pages that you could put in your books. Obviously, people are going to take them as time goes on. So basically, you're waiting to your turn to see what's available in the market for you to take. But basically, it's multiplayer solitaire. I have found it plays best at 2 if you have to play multiplayer. I will say I have played this multiplayer at different player counts, and I've also played it solo. The game plays best solo. I'm not a solo gamer, but I would play this game solo because it's fun to work at the mechanical, puzzle and formula that you're trying to do here. But as a multiplayer game, it's I would say rather, if not tremendously slow, just because there are so many actions to take. You have 3 different books to build from, and everyone's trying to decide on what cards really work for them or don't. So, Books of Time, it's fine. It's a good solo game. It's a challenging multiplayer game because of the time and the AP for it. So, it gets a play for me.
All right. I couldn't tell where that was leading. I was like, he likes it, he doesn't. He
I
likes it, he
I
doesn't.
like it at 1 best, 2 works, 1 or 2 players. I wouldn't play this with 3 or 4 players. It has components for 3 or 4 players. I wouldn't do that just because when I did try to play it with 3 or 4 players, it just grinded. And since it doesn't have any kind of like, thematic flow as far as like humanity's growing and now you're getting a second age of cards and a third age of cards, like I'm not building towards anything specifically wonderful. I'm just getting another card. So I wish it had a more thematic kind of scope to it and flow to it. But as a dry multiplayer solitaire game, all of these are not negatives. It's a fine game. All right. Now, on the complete opposite side of that is Fractured Sky. I talked about this earlier with the Kickstarter, that you'll be able to pick extra pieces up for it. Well, Fractured Sky is a deduction game, and it's all about this magical fantasy world in which you are trying to collect all of these different star pieces that have fallen to your magical world. And it turns out there is a gigantic magical creature that's down there who is not happy about this. But this magical creature has decided that whomever is able to collect the most of these different star pieces will get a magical wish. Now, very high level cartoony fantasy, to kind of set the stage, because the artwork in this game and the components in the game really are all about it. It pops with fantasy, it pops with color. It's really super dynamic as far as that's concerned. Like the pieces are top notch, kind of expensive as far as like the deluxe version is concerned. I think it's 125, and I think the super deluxe version I think is 180 something or another. You could check that for me, but basically what you're doing is fairly simple. You have a whole bunch of different airships. What's fun about the game is the production, because you have this giant board with all your stuff, and these airships are trying to allow you to do area control on different areas of the map, because different areas of the map will get the starfalls, randomly assigned to them based upon the cards and the objectives in the game. So you are building out the area utilizing these airships that are these wonderful little plastic, I don't know, not necessarily spaceships, but I guess they're basically just airships. So kind of cartoony, wonderful fantasy ships, and they magnetically connect to numbers. Now, the numbers in the game are the power in the game. And based on what you decide to take your 3 different airships and magnetically connect to, you're able to put the ship somewhere out there on the board on a location in hopes of getting one of these starfall pieces. Whoever has the most starfall pieces at the end of the game wins because they get a gigantic wish, which I guess is about winning. So, what limits you, because there is power from zero, there's a zero, there's another zero, all the way up to 10, is you can only put 10 power on the board. If you put more, there's a penalty that then reduces each of the power that you're putting out there. So it's an area control game, but since the numbers are magnetically connected to your ships, it's hidden. So I'm going to put a ship out there in the careening cliffs, but Anthony has no idea if it's a 5 or a 6 or a 7. He doesn't know what level of power I have there. Now there's also a power 10, which is super powerful, obviously, and there's also a power 1. Those have a special color on their own, so it does give away a little information, but you could trick people. You could be, oh, that's a 10, or it's a 1, I'm not really too sure. But basically, you're putting your 3 ships out there to control areas in order to claim those different pieces. In addition to all that fun stuff, you could build fortresses. These are these little fortress pieces that give control points to these different areas. Gives a +1 to all the areas that they're connected to. There's also markets. Markets allow you to gain an additional resource from those particular areas. And then there's skimmers, which are like little tiny airships that give you an additional troop power to that particular area. Now you might ask yourself, great, there's a whole bunch of areas in which I could put power and control, but how do I know where to do that? Well, at the start of the game, there's going to be a open public location that everyone knows is going to get a starfall. Then there is a private hidden one, which you can pay 2 gold to see for yourself and then get additional resources from. So you could actually sneak a peek if you pay for it, but as you pay for it and you get that for yourself, other people are going to know that you're going somewhere on purpose and maybe join you or kind of mess with you a little bit. So you can fake people out as well. There's also objectives in the game. Objectives in the game will also give you a starfall piece if you meet the particular objectives, and typically that's about what you place out there on the board, not necessarily what area you control. And basically, you play that over 5 different rounds in which you put out all these additional pieces. You try to control the areas with the most possible starfalls with as much power as possible. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most starfall pieces wins the game, gets the wish. And it's a beautiful, colorful, hidden power area control game with some deduction. And it's all about trying to figure out what other people are thinking and where they're placing their power so that you don't waste your power at a certain location and you try to trick them at the same time. So it is the opposite of multiplayer solitaire. It's all about group play, not heavy on the mechanics, a very light game. I played this with my family and it played kind of well. It was kind of easily understandable, and the production is like extremely high, like way too high than what the game needed. Like we were talking about earlier, games that are overproduced. This is overproduced, but again, considering that it is not super crunchy or anything, and it's all about the pieces on the board and the things that you move and the wonderful magnetic pieces, it kind of deserves to be. So for Fractured Sky, I'm going to give it a buy.
Nice. Yeah, it looks really cool with the Kickstarter campaign, especially with the new stuff that they have up there.
Yeah, they really went all out there. So if you're looking for a fun game to play with a bunch of people of all different levels and ages, this definitely works. All right, so that's everything we got to the table. Anthony, let's get on to our feature review. Our feature review, of course, is talking about the latest and greatest, which is the 18th annual Golden Geek nominations. Anthony, take it away.
Alrighty, folks. So we already kind of went through what we thought these should be a few weeks back. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the actual nominations and just kind of briefly run through what's up for it, what we think, what we would pick, all that good stuff. There are games in here that we have not played. There are games in here that we have not heard of. So I can see a couple just looking down the list. We'll not talk about those. Well, I will certainly list them as I read them off, but we're not going to pretend that we know what the British way counterinsurgency at the end of Empire is.
Aw.
I know.
I mean, didn't you just get a tattoo of that?
Yeah, it looks. It's a coin game, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's good, but no, thank you.
You're down the coin.
Yeah, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to start off with the 2-player games. We're just going to go down the order of the list that's on Board Game Geek. If you go to their homepage, you click on it, 18th annual nominations. 2-player games. First up, we have Boo.
Nice, you did it right.
Yeah, I did it. That's all 4 O's, I think it is.
Yeah.
The aforementioned British way counterinsurgency at the end of Empire, new coin game.
How many O's does that have?
2.
All right, so it's definitely not as good as Boob. So,
All right.
yeah.
Oh, that's okay. There we go. We'll just measure by O's.
I mean, what else is there?
Disney Lorcana only has 1 O.
Ah, sorry, Disney.
No good. Dracula versus Helsing.
Uh-huh.
No O's.
Well, negative blood.
Oh,
Yeah.
ooh, okay.
There you
go. Or is that a negative O?
Oh, there you go.
So less than 0
There
O's.
you go.
I don't know. Lacuna. Yep. Lacuna.
No O's there.
Oranienburger Canal, which is a great little game that I've only played solo from Uwe Rosenberg. Sail, a 2-player cooperative trick-taking game from All Play.
Yep.
Sky Team, another 2-player cooperative game about landing airplanes. No O's. So few O's. Star Wars, the deck-building game, which we have talked about, very much.
Yes.
And Undaunted Battle of Britain.
Yay.
There's almost 0 O's anywhere in here. I guess it's Boo.
I mean, it certainly can be. I mean, as far as 2-player games are concerned, I mean, again, the BGG list is difficult to manage because it doesn't necessarily state in the drop down as far as
Right.
which are 2-player games. So people are just nominating things. Obviously, this seems to be a decent filtered list of that. So
these are almost all 2-player only. So they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, Boob definitely makes sense as far as a 2-player game is concerned, which pretty dynamic and interesting. I know Disney Lorcana is a 2-player game. I just never think of a CCG as a 2-player game, and obviously there always are. So it's just it seems too big to be a 2-player game. It just doesn't feel like a 2-player. Sky Team has gotten a lot of attention. People are a really big fan of it. And Star Wars the Deck Builder game was the second coming until they decided to do a CCG. And so we probably won't see more content for that.
Which is, yeah. Yes. So sad.
And Undaunted Battle of Britain is also very good because I've played those as well.
Very good games throughout here, yeah. I would pick either Oranienburger or Star Wars, but there's several games here I'd be happy with.
Yeah. I'm not kidding about that. I think if Disney Lorcana wins, I think that's kind of sad because I just think that they're in a they're different all just a different game. It's just different. I mean, Star Wars the deck building game is meant it's built. The box itself is everything as far as a 2-player game is concerned. So, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go with that because Star Wars.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good game. All right, so that's 2-player games. Next up, we have artwork and presentation. So these are all games we've heard of, at least. So that's a plus.
I've played most of these.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Apiary. I think this is a joke, but this is everybody's joke pick. I think Apiary looks nice for what it is, but it's a silly theme, and honestly, some of the artwork's buried because of the iconography and graphic design.
They did the best they could with that concept.
True. The artist did a very good job.
Because that...
imagine that phone call. Jamie calls up the artist and they're like, this is what we're going to do. We have this great new game. It's got some vibes, worker placement, a little bit of wingspan vibes. Okay, cool. It's about bees. Oh, I like drawing bees. They're in space. Okay. Bees in space. Got it.
Yeah. It's a little, when you first look at it, it's a little disconcerting. But it could have went really bad easily.
It could have gone really bad. That's true. Oh man, apiary. I feel like that game would have been at the top of everybody's list for last year. It was very good, and just the theme was so weird.
I just want to say one thing before we get too deep in this. Like artwork and presentation, and I get it. It's two different things. Like,
It is.
and
It is.
I really feel I'm really disappointed for all the wonderful artists out there that like they should have their own category. Like art is its own thing.
Yeah.
Graphic design and pieces and other stuff is its own thing. I'm sorry. Just
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes it does blend
it
together. Well,
does.
there's a couple of examples here I would want to mention for that, but you're right. Like, why can't we have an award that's just like best artwork in a board
Yeah.
game?
I mean
Because
everything else, every other category.
I know, right? There's
Just
15 freaking awards here. All right, so let's rattle these
Yep.
off. Castles of Burgundy Special Edition.
It's
This is
fine.
for
It's
presentation.
fine.
It's fine. Darwin's
It's
Journey.
fine.
It's fine.
It's
Deliverance.
fine.
Distilled.
It's okay. It's nice.
I don't even know if it's fine. It just
It
is.
is. Yeah, I'll give it an is instead of a fine. I agree with you on that.
Earth is like actively not great, other than the cover.
Yeah,
I don't like the visual design of
it's
Earth.
also photos. So
Yeah,
like I think you cheated there.
yeah. The cover is great though.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cover. Earthborn Rangers, I love.
Yeah.
It's so quirky and cool and evocative. That's a great one. Um, Expeditions is just the scythe artwork, but new pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing artwork, but also controversy aside, it's just like it's the same thing. Forest Shuffle,
It's fine.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. And then we got Septima and Voidfall, the two from Mind Clash, who always does good in this category.
Man, my Clash is they're just the best, man.
Yeah.
I love I said this a million times. Like, I love that they swing for the fences. Like
Yeah. It makes for some amazing experiences. And for me, Voidfall is the example of where artwork and presentation go together,
yes.
because this game doesn't work if you don't have someone like Ian O'Toole working to make the graphic design accessible. It's the reason why all Lacerda games are O'Toole designed, because without that visual component, the game is very difficult to play.
Yes.
So Voidfall for me, but also Earthborn Rangers is very good.
I mean I own and have Septima, and honestly a large part of picking up Septima was the artwork
Mm.
and I mean, for lack of a better term, the presentation. I mean, the production is very good. The piece, I mean, if
Right.
you flip through the production there, the artwork and the pieces and everything coming, it's pretty fantastic.
Hmm.
But yeah, I haven't played Voidfall yet, but if you've ever played a 4X star game, like yeah, you better bring in the big guns for that.
Yeah, yeah. With worse artwork, that game would have been unplayable. I'm just
And
saying.
there's a lot of games like that too, because when people like it's space, so like every color, and you're like, please don't, or
Yeah,
like
no.
everything's black, like please don't.
Yeah, it's so hard to look at. Like Eclipse First Edition, impossible to look at. Um, so yeah, I think for me, Voidfall, Earthborn Rangers is good. Septima's very pretty. There's some good stuff in there, but it is a weird mix.
Yeah, I think it's something about just for the fact that it convinced me to buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's pretty good. Um, all right, so next up we have cooperative games, which historically is not a category we have much to say about, but we'll go through these. The Art Project, a new game from Benoit Turpin, working with Florian Sire. We have Deliverance again, so more angel fighting. We have the Daybreak, which is the climate change game from Matt Leacock that was on, I think, GameFound or BackerKit or one of those recently. Earthborn Rangers, we just talked about. Kinfire Chronicles, Night's Fall. Okay. It's a Kevin Wilson game. Kevin Wilson, of course, of Descent fame. This was crowdfunded, of course, hence the 4 words in the title. Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game. It's more Zombicide, but you got Marvel now. Sail, the 2-player co-op we talked about. Sky Team, the other 2-player co-op we talked about. Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. So
Eh,
this is a
it's fine.
standalone expansion for a
Yeah,
game, and then Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze,
it's fine.
where they made like a
Yeah,
actual board game out of
I
Unmatched,
know.
which
You know that game you own like 15 different expansions for? Hey, how about a board game of it? Like,
yeah,
damn it.
why not? I'll be perfectly honest, I've not played a lot of these. For me, though, the one that really stands out is Daybreak. Despite the issues with shipping and some broken stuff in the box, the game is actually very interesting
Sure.
and compelling. I wish it was shorter so I could bring it to class, but that's a me thing. Like, as a game and as a piece of communication, I think it does everything it's meaning to do. Following up with that, I love 2-player co-op games. So Sail and Sky Team are both great.
Yeah, I agree as well. And again, I think if we want to stretch a little bit outside, as far as the tabletop is concerned, like it- Daybreak is an interesting idea as far as co-op because it's something that we legitimately need to do cooperatively.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could somewhat say the same for Sky Team, but I don't think many of us are going to be in the cockpit of a plane. But we all
Right.
need to be doing the Daybreak things. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Leacock's whole thing is embodiment, right?
yes,
Like, how do you embody a thing that you can relate to as a human
yeah,
being in the game? And Daybreak does that very well.
yeah. And I just even with Sky Team, which is a great game, but like if you don't know this, pilot and co-pilot actually do talk i- in the
Yeah,
cockpit. So like
yeah.
it's you wave your hand at that, it's fine. But I'm just saying,
Yeah. All right, yeah. Co-op games are good.
yeah,
All right, expansions. Good year for expansions. Arc Nova Marine Worlds, Beyond the Sun, Leaders of the New Dawn, Bitoku, Restatoran, Cascadia Landmarks, Darwin's Journey, Fireland expansion, Lost Ruins of Arnak, The Missing Expedition, Return to Dark Tower. I said Dork Tower. That's great. It's Kovalik on the
there
money.
you go.
Return to Dark Tower Covenant, Sea Salt and Paper Extra Salt, Spirit Island Nature Incarnate, and Tapestry Fantasies and Future. Stupid subtitles. I've played half of these. I would say most of those are not essential. Marine World's not essential. Landmark's not essential. Uh, I love the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion, but it's not essential to the game.
Sure,
Um, Beyond the Sun, Leaders of the New Dawn would be up there for me if the two halves of the expansion could play together, but they don't. So,
dumb.
boo. Um, so for me, it's probably Darwin's Journey, Fireland expansion. We've talked about this
Yeah,
before. It makes the game good.
it does.
Um, whether it's carved off the original game or not is a whole separate conversation, but it does make the game good. Um, and then Spirit Island, I'm always down for more spirits. So Nature Incarnate, those are good
Yeah,
spirits.
that's fine. I agree.
All right. Innovative games. It's another dumb category that has no
It's
real
another,
definition.
yeah, for what is a industry of innovation.
Right.
So it's like the innovative of the innovation. I don't know. It's
I
fine.
It is fine. It's just sometimes the games that end up in here are not always innovative. They're just like big. Or
Sure, or they're miniatures
um
or something. Yeah,
yeah, they're like it's doing a lot of things. They're like, yeah, a lot of games do a lot of
I think the
things.
innovative category because again, this is a hobby of designer board games. So these are typically individual designers crafting something new and exciting, right? Otherwise, it never hits the table, right?
Right.
So this category should almost be like something they just award it to somebody, right?
Yeah.
oh, pandemic legacy, you just get this
Yep.
award because like as an industry we go, what the heck, this is amazing, like here's
Right.
an
Yeah.
award for you. Like it's kind of weird to kind of go innovation, like all of the games are innovative, but sure.
Yeah. Yeah. In some way,
Yeah.
yeah. Or they're derivative and they're not getting nominated for anything anyways.
Sure.
All right. So we got Apiary, which is a worker placement game with a few tweaks to it.
Uh-huh.
It's not derivative, but I wouldn't call it innovative
But
either.
it's got bees.
It's got bees.
The bees is the innovative
It
part.
innovates by making the bees in space. Um, Daybreak, uh, I would say thematically innovative for sure. It found a way to make a climate change game that is accessible and cooperative
Hmm.
that works because that is had not existed before. So yes. Deliverance again. People are really digging this Angel game. I don't know. I don't know what's up with this thing, but there you go. Earthborn Rangers, very much so. It's a positive post-apocalyptic future, which is always fun.
Hmm.
Far Away. I don't know much about this one, but it's uh, got like a cool vibe to it. Tableau ability type of thing. Hegemony, lead your class to victory. I think any game that's that asymmetrical is generally considered innovative,
Yeah.
even though there's other games that are doing it.
Mhm.
Kut no Hora, The City of Silver. I demoed this. I played half of it. I have it. I don't actually know what's innovative about this game. Um, so, I don't know. Sky Team, 2-player co-op, communication barriers at some levels, some higher level play that can go real time. So I could see that. Station Fall, it's a Matt Eklund joint, which means it's complicated, more complicated than it needs to be. So I don't know if it's innovative or just like a big old box of stuff. Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. It's a legacy game. It's I'm sure innovative for Ticket to Ride. And then Voidfall, same thing. Brilliant game. I wouldn't call it. It's not doing anything new. It's just doing a lot of things.
Sure.
So I like all these games. I'm not saying any of them are bad. I just find like the whole innovative label like tricky.
Yeah.
So I'd say Hegemony or Daybreak for me. Um,
Yeah, Hegemony, when I backed it, I mean, for two reasons. One was, hey, this game seems to be as profoundly crunchy and dynamic and like it wasn't, again, we took multiplayer solitaire. Like it was like you had to work off other people, right? It was like, if I do this, this affects you doing this affects someone else doing this. Like it's that kind of really it's that level of engagement. I think that was innovative. The asymmetric,
mhm,
sure, but it was that level of like the social classes, economic classes, kind of interacting with each other was different. It wasn't like cause and
mhm,
effect. It was like just fluid.
mhm.
So I mean, that's generally what kind of took me there as far as innovative. But
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
yeah,
If I'm voting, which probably at some point I will,
yes,
I'm picking Hegemony.
sure,
All right. So now we get into our weight classes. We got light, medium, and heavy games. Light games of the year, not our particular wheelhouse, but there's a few in here we've
yeah,
played. We have Art Society
uh
from Mitch Wallace. We have Bonsai, which I've yet to play, but every time I see it, I'm like, God, that looks cool.
huh.
Um, Far Away, we just talked about, like a cool looking, funky artwork tableau builder. Nar,
Nar. Yeah.
Vikings. Um, Nemalia, which is panda on the cover, which is it's polyomino tiles and pandas. Gotta love it. Um, Point City, which we have played. We played that back at Gen Con. It's kind of like a slightly more complex version of Point Salad. Rebel Princess is uh, another game I don't know a ton about, but is doing some interesting things with the cards there. That's Not a Hat is a party game.
It is.
So I don't know that I put it here, but there you go. Thunder Road Vendetta is it's interesting. It's under light because I know
It's
it's
weird.
winning game of the year awards. And then Trailblazers, Chris just talked about last week on the podcast, is kind of an interesting game about hiking.
Yeah. I don't know why a couple of games are here.
No, I think people we talked about this before when we did the nominations. Before the nominations came out, we all define medium, light, and heavy differently,
Sure.
and some people's definitions are weird.
But
So
don't like wouldn't we say that we're on the heavier side? Like
yes, yeah.
so I would never think of like Point City as a light game. Like
No, it's interesting. I don't. It's a 1.6, I guess.
it's weird. That's also weird.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
it's fine. I mean, but yeah, it's fine.
I don't know. I mean, that's my pick because that's the one I've played the most of this
Yeah,
list, and I like it.
I'm gonna go with Chris's pick on Trailblazers because
Yeah,
it seemed like production wise it was something you could bring anywhere,
right.
and it was Sprawlopolis like where you're
Hmm.
just kind of putting together a trail.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That is very cool. I want to play
yeah,
that. All right, medium games. This is the bulk of what we play because this is the where most of the Euros
give or
fall.
take.
Um, that we have time to play. I guess I have played all of these. I guess I
I
should
played
put it
all of
that
these
way.
too. Yeah.
Apiary again.
Well,
Castles of Burgundy Special Edition, which doesn't feel like it should be medium, but the game is a medium game. It just has a $200 burden.
the,
Uh,
the weight is literally the weight of the game.
yeah, the weight is the weight. Um, Distilled, a game I thought was heavy until I played it, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Not at all. Earth, yeah. Expeditions, another game that's like a much bigger box and heavier production than what the weight of the game actually implies. Um, Forest, Shuffle, I feel like it's medium because it's long.
Yeah.
It's not a complicated
That's
game.
my experience of it.
Yeah. Sky Team, again, Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. I haven't finished this. I played a couple rounds, but I'm like, they got to add a lot to this to make it a medium weight game.
Yeah.
It's still just Ticket to Ride so
It's
far.
true.
White Castle, which is winning a bunch of other awards, and then World Wonders, which just doesn't have much going on for it, but I could see why it falls under medium.
I mean, the Castles of Burgundy special edition, and we've talked about this a little bit, where like games come back with new redesigns and stuff. Why is this here?
It's exactly the same gameplay, right?
It's 100%
Has
the same gameplay, right? Except the expansion.
There's one new expansion, and it's not very good.
But then put it in the expansion category. Why? Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, look. I mean, if we're going to put every game in here that has like an upgrade or a deluxe version of it, like this is going to come out silly really quickly.
Yeah, not a fan.
I mean, again,
I like
it's one of the greatest games of all time, but I don't know.
it is, but it came out 14 years ago or whatever. Like we're good. Um
You had your day, buddy.
I paid my $225. I have it. I'm not complaining. I just don't think it should win a Game of the Year award for 2023. Um in this category, for me, I think it's Apiary. I actively dislike some of these games,
Sure.
so I wouldn't pick those. And the other ones are fine. So like, there's two games in this list which I find funny that I gave dodges to and almost burned. Um, but I know they're popular, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, as far as categories are concerned, as medium, right? I mean, I feel
Right?
like Sky Team is medium. I
It
feel
is.
like that fits really well. I think some of the other games, like you said, is like some of them a little bit obtuse, like, or there's just like an endless deck of cards,
Right.
and you're just like, is that medium? I guess it also could be light, or also could be heavy, depending on like how much you want to torture yourself with the deck of cards.
Yeah, it becomes a question of like the best versus the most,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
Earth Earth isn't the best medium game; it's the most
It's the
medium
most.
game.
It's the most. It's the most mid of a game that it's ever midded.
Yeah, so people play it and they're like, "Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here." I'm like, that doesn't mean it's good.
It's there.
Yeah. All right. So now here's our real
That's
wheelhouse.
what
These
I'm
are the games we
saying. You were
want.
putting us on
Yeah. No.
medium. I don't know who you are, man.
No. But the problem is, you look at the medium list. I'm like, I've played every one of these multiple
Uh huh.
times. The heavy list, I want to play all of these, and I have not because I don't have time.
Oh well, that's a different story.
I know. I know. It's sad. This is a sad one.
Wait, we'll
Um.
get to the sad category in a minute.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Of course, I own most of these,
Yes.
despite not playing them very much. Heavy game of the year. Okay. These are all good. So this is fun.
Yeah.
Um, Age of Innovation, Terra Mystica 1.785, whatever you want to call it.
I love it.
Darwin's Journey, which I think we can just disqualify because it's not including the expansion,
No.
right?
Yeah. It's not. I
Uh,
wouldn't even put it in the heavy category. I put it in the medium category.
yeah, I could see that. Dune Imperium Uprising, I I don't know. Like Dune Imperium, I wouldn't consider heavy, but I haven't played Uprising, so I don't know. Uh,
I would agree with. I mean, I think it's again we skew heavy. So
true, true.
sure, I guess
Yeah.
maybe possibly.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, a video game podcast, and the guy mentioned playing Dune Imperium on
Uh
Steam.
huh.
And the way he described it, he's like, this is the most complex, confusing,
Wow.
overwrought thing I've ever played in my entire
Wow.
life. And I loved it. Like, it was
Oh,
like,
that's
that was his
great.
review. But he's like, it took like an hour to learn how to play, just the basic. It was just funny listening to people who play video games and their walkthrough tutorials,
Yeah.
like trying to figure out a board game,
Sure.
being mad about it. Um, Evacuation.
Yeah, that's heavy.
It is
Uh huh.
heavy. It's not actually particularly complex, but it's really difficult to learn.
Yeah.
Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
Sure.
Hegemony, lead your class to victory. This is a heavy freaking
Yeah.
game. Um,
Oh my god.
Kutnohora, the City of Silver.
Yeah, I guess.
Uh,
I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pretty heavy
I give
game.
it to you.
Nucleum, got a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, it's heavy and a lot.
Yeah. Scholars of the South Tigris is
Yeah, I
interesting
thought the same.
because and I know like Shem Phillips games they're getting more complex each one. like but I just think back to like Raiders or Architects. I'm like these aren't heavy games, but apparently this one
I
is.
mean, it's a
So
4.01
yeah,
as far as weight's concerned, which I think is really overestimated. It might just be that the people who play his games are like, "What the
yeah,
heck, dude?" Like,
it's a lot, is what it is. Like if you look at the player boards,
yeah,
and you look at the like, there's a lot
there
happening,
is.
and I think people conflate complexity with volume
Mhm.
a lot of the time because volume makes it harder to learn.
Yeah,
So I'm not saying they're wrong, but and then Voidfall, which is the heaviest game on this list, um, because of volume. So,
yeah, in
uh,
the rule book.
yeah, right. So this one probably just comes down to our actual games of the year, right?
Yeah.
Like Voidfall for me, Hegemony for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's where we ended at the end of the year. That's always what we end up picking as our heavy game
Mhm.
as game of the year. Um, good games, good games.
Yeah. Very good games.
All right, let's rattle off some party games that we've not played. All right. Among Cultists, a social deduction thriller. No, thank you. Blob Party. Okay. Chicken! Exclamation point. Dixit Disney Edition. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Hollywood 1947. How dare you? Nekojima.
Kojima we played.
Oh, that's good. I actually like that
Yeah.
one. Pray Another Day, but pray with an E.
Uh-huh.
So, the same game, and once again, that's not a hat.
Should in the future, should they have, like, different levels of party game, light, medium, heavy?
What would a heavy party
Well,
game be?
Nekojima is not messing around.
That's true. Like, so physically heavy?
Well, physically heavy for sure, but I also think that it's one of those games that, like, if you brought that to a party, people I mean, we were sweating that game, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was no joke, those damn cats.
I like that one. I like Dixit as a game, and Disney is
Yeah,
cool. So,
sure.
good stuff. Print and play. All right, this one's tough again because we just don't do print and plays really. But we'll list them off
I
because
know one you do. I know one you backed. Same.
there are several here I've
Yeah.
backed. I've not necessarily printed and played them. So Ancient Realm
Mhm.
is a button shy game. You can get a physical copy of that game. I find it iffy to put it under print and play, but there is an option to back it and just print it out and play it. So, Battle Card Series 1, Dungeon Pages Core Set, Flip Town, Naturopolis, same thing, button shy. One Page War is the one of these I did back that is a pure um, print and play
Mhm.
from Haken Garter, who is the designer of like Moon and Villagers. Very cool artwork, layout, very cool system. I've read through the rules a couple times. I just haven't gotten around to printing and figuring this out yet.
Makes sense.
Shoes Tactics, Tiny Mini Golf, which I've heard good things about. Villagers of the Oakdale and Waypoints. So I personally have no picks because again, the only ones of these I played are ones that I got copies from the publisher, which is not a printed play. So
Sure. I mean, One Page War. I mean,
yeah, no, One Page War is great, and
it's
it seems good. I just haven't actually printed a copy that I could play with
and it's
yet.
literally one page,
Yeah,
but they do have like
it's cool.
variations with the artwork, which is fun.
Right? Yeah, you I think the base version is like Modern War, but you could get the medieval version as
Or
well.
there's a kid
Uh,
version too.
is there kid? Oh, I missed the kid
Yeah.
version. All right, so print and play stuff always good. Solo games. 20 Strong is like the modular solo game from Chip Theory Games. Siberian, the new Shadi Torbay game, the best one in like 10 years. Deliverance, those darn angels are back. Earth has a solo mode, can't argue with that. Earthborn Rangers, again, solo mode, can't argue with that. Halls of Hagra, have not heard of this game. It's a war game. We have Hoplomachus Victorum, a kind of re-release of an old Hoplomachus formula, one player only. Legacy of You, Shem Phillips' own one player only game. Mr. President, the American Presidency, a 6-hour GMT game that only plays with one. Voidfall has a pretty robust solo mode from David Turczi, and then Witchcraft, um, the Witchcraft version of Resist that came out this year. I love Voidfall. I think it's great, but that and Earthborn Rangers, I would just say let's disqualify the ones that actually have multiplayer modes.
Yeah, I that's my biggest complaint with these.
Yeah, like if you ask me which of these I'd rather play the most, probably Voidfall, but it's also like the biggest lift because it's a lot, and the solo rules are a lot. Um, Siberian though is fantastic, and it technically has a 2-player mode, but no one plays those games 2 players.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
All right, thematic game. Here's another weird category that's a nothing. Deliverance, Angels, Distilled, Whiskey, Dune Imperium Uprising, Dune, Earthborn Rangers. I don't know. Earthborn Rangers, I guess. Hegemony, lead your class to victory. Sky Team, Pilots. Station Fall, Space People, Thunder Road Vendetta, Mad Max, Voidfall, Space Stuff, and The Witcher Old World. The Witcher. So thematically, what
That's
do
so
we think?
weird thematically. Like every game's thematic.
I know,
Uh
yeah.
uh
It's anything that's not an abstract game goes in this category. I mean it's hegemony,
it's
right? Like that's
hegemony.
such a thematic game.
It's
It doesn't work without the
no.
theme. Like
There
you could retheme some of these games and it'd be fine, but you couldn't retheme
agreed.
hegemony. It doesn't
So
work.
yeah, 100%.
All right. War Game, they nominated so many games, and I don't know why. There's like 15 games here. I'm just gonna rattle them off. Bloodstones, The British Way, Counterinsurgency at the End of Empire, Downfall, Conquest of the Third Reich, General Orders, World War II, Halls of Hagra, The Hunt, North Africa 41, People Power, Insurgency in the Philippines, Plantagenet, Cousins War for England, Triumph of Marengo, Undaunted, Battle for Britain, and Weimar, The Fight for Democracy.
Yeah, buddy.
That Weimar game looks pretty
I
cool, but
I can't wait to play that game.
I know it's Matthias Kramer. It's 4 players only. Apparently, it takes 6
I
hours.
don't care. I want to play it.
I know, me too. That's what I'm saying.
Dude,
We saw it at the convention. We're like, how do we get this game? And we're like, well, they have it, but it's 4 players only, and it's $200. Like,
please.
boo.
I mean, I went through all the different tables at PAX, and Anthony's like, "Well, what do you want to play?" I'm like, "This. I want to play this." Like,
We'll go find 2 more people because I don't
yeah,
know.
2 more people and somebody who can understand this rule set. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is awesome.
yeah. And that's no shade on the other games. We're
Oh
just not
no,
war game people.
absolutely, 100%. So, and again, there's a lot of great games here.
Yeah. All right. So the category that we've been talking about, it's here.
Wah wah.
Do we want to put ourselves through this?
I mean, let's just give a general statement. Uh, all our colleagues here for Best Podcast are fantastic. We love them all.
They are.
And, please show your love by, giving votes. I know, like, typically the board game categories are like all the cool, fun stuff. But I will say, as a podcaster, it is very hard and a lot of work and effort and time and money to do these things, to do the podcasts. So, all of our colleagues out there who are doing these things and have been recognized by their listeners really do deserve the accolade here because it is a heavy lift. So, I mean, we talked about light, medium, heavy. It's a heavy lift to do this stuff. So, congratulations for everyone just being nominated. Fantastic. But yeah, check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like absolutely zero shade to anybody. Obviously, we would love to be nominated, but it's just cool to see. And a lot of these people are our friends. We know them. We spend time with them, and it's you know, again, rattling them off real quick. Beyond Solitaire, Blue Peg, Pink Peg, Board Game Barbecue, Board Game Hot Takes, Decision Space, 5 Games for Doomsday, Friendly Ties, Game Brain, The Gamecasters, One Stop Co-op Shop, Talk Cardboard. We know many of these people. We've spent time with them. We've hung out with them. It's very cool to see them nominated. So
Yes.
vote for the one you like best. I don't know that I could pick just one.
There you go.
All right. Last but not least, always the oddball out. Best board game app.
So it's like, and yeah, you're still here, right?
Right. And honestly, this is often where I find out that things have been released digitally because I'm like, I didn't know these things don't get promoted very much anymore, and I feel like we've stopped investing in board game apps as much.
We did. It was like such a big thing for a moment.
Yeah, well, Board Game Arena came around, and that's where everybody puts their stuff.
Yes.
So now, like this list is not great. So
Board game
um,
apps generally have not been good through the history.
there
Like
was a period of like 3 to 4 years where we got a lot of really good stuff.
they got better, and
Yeah.
they are better today. But generally, in comparison to like literally every other kind of app out there or video
Yeah.
game, you know,
It's weird though, like Dune Imperium's not here.
I
Maybe
thought the same thing.
did it go 1.0 after January? Is that what happened? Because
You
that's
got
the best one from last year, but it's not
it
here.
is.
I guess I'll rattle these off. Capital Lux 2, Discordia, Fantasy Realms, Fleet the Dice Game, Munchkin Digital, Numsters, Board Game or Power Grid Board Game, Super Mega Lucky Box, Twilight Struggle Red Sea, and Unmatched Digital Edition.
Uh,
I got nothing. I don't like. I think Fleet the Dice Game's a great game. The app is fine. I don't know that I'd play it on the app. Fantasy Realms, a great game. Again, another app where I'm like, why would I play this in an app? Munchkin Digital, famously not good.
yeah.
Power Grid board game app for iOS, also famously not very good. So, an Unmatched Digital is like $4,000 or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I have no picks here personally.
Yeah, I think since we praised everything before, we would just go, to this afterwards. We're just like, good luck next year, everybody. Good luck next year.
Yep. So there you go, folks. All the categories, all the nominees. Get your votes in. They are accepting votes until May 12th, which is Sunday, Mother's Day. Don't forget your moms. And don't forget your Board Game Geek Award nominations.
There you go. All right, everyone. So that's everything for this week. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye.